Chapter 41. Plateau and Sales Volume. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Plateau and Sales Volume. Translator Aristofaniso Editor. Karen _ I wonder how business will be today, Chu Xian thought to himself as he stood by the shop door expectantly. Hello. Welcome. Chu Xian greeted the passerby enthusiastically. The first customer came pretty quickly. To his astonishment, the customer was a familiar face. Hello, it's nice to see you, Chu Xian, He Wei greeted, walking up to Chu Xian with a slightly sheepish smile. Congratulations. You're running such a high-class goldfish store now. I was petty and small before, I hope you can forgive me. Chu Xian chuckled, looking at He Wei with some surprise. He shook his head and said, Don't worry about it. I've already forgotten what happened. Okay, that's great. He Wei said happily. I saw on WeChat that the goldfish you're selling are very beautiful, so I came to buy a couple. Sure. You can look for any goldfish you like, or I can pick some out for you. Chu Xian said with a smile. This one is good. This one as well, He Wei said while pointing at a couple goldfish. 2,000 RMB each, right? Here, Chu Xian, 12,000 RMB in total. Hee. Okay, Chu Xian said with a chuckle. He took He Wei's money and handed him a small fish tank. Okay. Wait, Chu Xian, let me take a video to help promote your business, He Wei said hurriedly, taking out his phone and taking a video. He posted it in his friend's circle saying, I bought 6 goldfish from my old classmate Chu Xian. They're very beautiful, 2,000 RMB each, extremely precious. If you want to buy some, come to Guwu Street, or you can contact me. Okay. I hope your business flourishes. I really hope you can overlook my pettiness. He Wei said shamelessly. Chu Xian looked at him speechlessly and nodded. Yo, Chu bro. At that moment, a group of men and a pretty girl entered the store with big smiles. Chu Xian turned around and greeted them, you guys came. Hee. We've come to take advantage of you. Li Qiao said as she peered around the store curiously before focusing on the goldfish in the tanks. Wow. These goldfish are incredible. Gu Wenqing and the others smiled before walking over to Chu Xian. Wenqing patted Chu Xian's shoulder before commenting, Brother Chu, looks like business is booming. Haha. It's because of your silver tongue. Come, look at these goldfish. I have 8 types. You all can take 1 tank each. Hee, how could I accept so much? Li Qiao said happily from where she stood, leaning in and staring at the goldfish. You can introduce some customers to me later, Chu Xian said with a smile, pushing the prepared goldfish to them. I can't hang out with you guys today though. My store is too small, so I won't keep you. Haha. You're afraid we'll get in the way of your business. Brother Chu, we'll take your gift and help you promote your business. We'll definitely introduce some customers to you, Li Zhong promised. Then I'll have to thank you in advance. After chatting for a little while longer, they each took their tank and left with smiles. Chu Xian watched them go as He Wei watched on, stunned. He Wei's heart filled with happiness as he rejoiced over his decision to lower his head and apologize. Chu Xian, I don't want to keep you anymore. If you need anything, just find me and I'll definitely help out. He Wei waved goodbye. Chu Xian nodded back with a smile and sat back down. Right before noon, the store filled with customers, some came because of what they saw online and some were just passing by. In the afternoon, the 3 young housewives who hadn't managed to buy goldfish the previous time they came each picked out 8 goldfish and left, satisfied. Chu Xian's face was filled with smiles as he kept himself busy the entire day helping every customer and explaining some basic goldfish knowledge. At the end of the day, he was thirsty and tired, but he rested with a satisfied smile. That day he sold 120 goldfish, more than 200,000 RMB. This kind of revenue would definitely astonish most people. But this situation won't last, Chu Xian thought to himself as he lay down on his new bed. He flipped around, looking at the walls of his new home as he thought to himself. Selling in a local store had significant limitations, and he really needed to make gains on his internet development. Promoting online is much more troublesome though. Right now, I can only advertise on Fast Hands, and even then, out of the 1,000 people who see my posts, only a couple will buy. The reach of my account isn't enough, Chu Xian thought with a frown. The next day, Chu Xian sold around 150 goldfish. This was mainly because Gu Wenqing, Li Qiaoqiao and the others who spread the news and asked their friends to come buy some goldfish and help his business out. 1 or 200,000 RMB wasn't much to these rich second-generation friends, and they all gave face to Wenqing and the others. The goldfish were indeed very beautiful, and it would be nice to play around with a couple or give them as gifts to family or girlfriends. The third day, business went down a lot, and only 30 fish were sold the entire day. It looks like the market in Haiqing will be saturated pretty soon, then it'd be considered a good day if I sold just 4 or 5 goldfish a day. I need to start more widespread advertising online. Chu Xian thought to himself. As he thought of a specific person, he smiled to himself. However, right at that moment his phone began to ring, and Chu Xian saw it was the renovation company's number, so he picked up immediately. Mr. Chu. Bad news. All our work has been vandalized. What? Vandalized? Chu Xian said with a sinking expression. Who? We don't know either, but in the morning, our workers came and found everything damaged. The floor, aquarium, everything. We already contacted the police. Okay, got it. I'm heading over now. Chu Xian said, hanging up with a clouded expression on his face. He closed up his shop and hurried over to the fish farm. When he arrived, he found a crowd surrounding his place intermingled with the police. Chu Xian pushed through and walked into his farm. Translator's thoughts. Aristofaniso, 1. He Wei is the classmate who works at Golden Dragon Group. He led the interviewees the day that CX brought the koi fish over. He saw how CX was greeted by President Jin and was suitably floored. The last thing he thought as CX left was how his job was on the line if CX said anything to Jin. First introduced in Chapter 23, and sweats in Chapter 25. 2. Li Qiaoqiao was one of the friends Jin Sen introduced to CX in Chapter 28. He offers them all some goldfish for free. Her background is introduced in 29. She's either super wealthy or her parents are in the government or something. 3. Either from 18 or 19, when CX met super boss Jin and he bought all the goldfish. The young ladies came just as CX was putting up the sign that said he wouldn't be doing business for a couple of days. Chapter 42. Returning the courtesy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Returning the courtesy. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen Chu Xian's fish farm was very important and could be considered his first base and foundation. The following developments would come out of this farm, so he didn't mind spending a lot to renovate and rebuild it. He walked into the fish farm and saw that the floor and sky-blue decorations were damaged and smashed, and all of the beautiful aquariums were broken. The place was a mess. Young Master Chu. The middle-aged designer, Mr. Li, greeted Chu Xian as he came in and immediately walked to his side. This morning, our workers came and found that the lock had been broken and everything inside had been smashed. Chu Xian nodded with a clouded and unpleasant expression. These were the last few days for the renovation and all the necessities had already arrived. It would have taken only 3 or 4 more days to finish the installation. Young Master Chu, the damages are at least 70,000. Mr. Li said with a frown. I know, Chu Xian replied, taking a deep breath and walking over to the police. Policeman brothers, have you figured out who did this? Hard to tell, a policeman said as he looked around before turning to Chu Xian with a sympathetic look. There are no cameras and no evidence, so. The cop didn't finish his sentence, but Chu Xian understood. His things had been smashed and he couldn't do anything about it. Move aside, move aside. An arrogant voice suddenly sounded out and some of the crowd moved aside. I must say, brother. What happened? A young man said with a mocking tone. Chu Xian looked at him and his eyes flashed coldly before he said, so it was you. Huh, bro, don't try to frame me without any evidence, I can sue you for slander. Qin Jiyu said and turned to examine the surroundings with a proud look. TSK, such a fancy place all smashed up. These aquariums must have been several thousand each. What a shame, bro. I don't know what bad things you did, but you should be careful. He probably slept with another man's woman, why else would this have happened to him? One of the sidekicks said with a laugh, but before he even finished speaking, he noticed Qin Jiyu and the others were staring at him with dark expressions. Haha. You must have done something bad, why else would this have happened to you? The young man repeated awkwardly. Chu Xian smiled coldly and walked menacingly toward Jiyu. What do you want? I'm telling you, the police are right here. Qin Jiyu said, backing away from Chu Xian's ugly expression. The policeman frowned and looked on but said nothing. *SSY. You didn't dare to act like a man and instead used these cowardly, despicable methods. Very good. Chu Xian said with mockery. Since you want to play, let's play. Kid, what are you saying? I, Qin Jiyu, am an upright and just man. What despicable method did I use? Don't slander me. Jiyu exclaimed with a glare, but then he smiled. You should be careful in the Fengtai district. I don't care what background you have, but even if you're a dragon, you'll lay down for me, and even if you're a tiger, you'll sit. You can't afford to play with me. This is just the start. That's right, kid. What happened today is just. Shut up. Qin Jiyu said, glaring at the young man who stepped forward to speak. You idiot. Brother Qin, I spoke out of turn, the young man said as he shrank back and realized the cops were still there by the side. Okay. Just wait and see if I can afford to play or not. Chu Xian said with a cold look and turned to Mr. Li, keep working and replace all the broken things. This. Mr. Li said hesitantly. This is not a problem. Just 70,000, I can waste this much. Even if things are smashed again, I can still afford it. Chu Xian said with a cold laugh. Okay. Mr. Li replied, nodding in response to his slightly tyrannical and insane talk before turning to the workers. Collect all the damaged things and buy any replacements needed. Let's keep working. Qin Jiyu was stunned by Chu Xian's domineering words, then he said gloomily, Kid. Good luck. Hee. Good luck to you as well. Chu Xian said with an evil smile. Son, I hope you get some cameras set up around here, or else we can't do anything even if you know who the culprit is, a middle-aged cop reminded Chu Xian as Qin Jiyu and the others left. Yes. I understand. Thank you very much, brothers, Chu Xian replied, nodding as he offered them some cigarettes. The cops waved their hands in refusal and left. The crowd of onlookers murmured in low voices, pointing here and there and glancing at Chu Xian with sympathy. Chu Xian lit a cigarette and walked over to the onlookers with a smile, offering some cigarettes, asking, brothers and sisters, can I ask who those young men were? The expressions of the bystanders were awkward, and after a long silence, an old man glanced around and said in a quiet voice, Son, I'll warn you 'cause you're new to these parts. Don't mess with them. You should resolve whatever trouble you have with them as soon as possible. Chu Xian frowned and said, Uncle, can you be more specific? I'll tell you the important points. That kid in black is Qin Jiyu, and he's the son of a boss who owns a fish farm here. The old man pointed at the lake. The farm with the largest area and the best location belongs to them, and they've owned it for at least 5 or 6 years now. I won't say any more, you should know better than to mess with them here at Feng Tai. Chu Xian replied. He saw the old man's hesitation and knew he was afraid, so he thanked him gratefully. Thank you for your warning. I understand. As long as you know. Don't be impulsive, son. The old man nodded before leaving with a wave. The crowd gradually dispersed. I never thought his family owned a farm on the lake, no wonder he's so arrogant. This Qin family is clearly pretty sketchy. Since it's come to this. Chu Xian smiled wickedly, looking out at the farm in the distance. Translator's thoughts Aristofaniso, 1. So they got beat up before back at 31. They were probably also the people who vandalized his car. Qin Jiyu is the sports car bro, son of the big Dahai bro who apparently attacked someone and went to prison. Chapter 43. First time in the water. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. First time in the water. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen_the night was cool and across the lake wafted a gentle breeze as the sound of jumping fish splashed in the distance. Chu Xian walked toward the lake wearing black sportswear. It was 11:30 p.m. and no one was around. He stopped next to the lake and looked around. Confirming that no one was around, he took off his clothes and walked into the lake. Transform. Chu Xian willed, and he transformed. A strange black fish about a meter long appeared in the water. He had dark black skin, thick fins, and a gaping mouth. His strong tail beat against the lake and created waves as he cut through the water. In the water, Chu Xian felt better than good, all the pores in his body breathed deeply, and every motion propelled him quickly and forcefully. He was free. In the lake, however, Chu Xian's sight was reduced a lot. The water in Feng Tai Lake wasn't particularly clear, and he could only see creatures within a 5-meter radius. Control. He willed, and a God's that eye view appeared in his mind. He could see his body, and it was as if he were in a game. Clownfish, Level 1, Combat Power 0, Innate Talent. None. Volodar, Level 1, Combat Power 0, Innate Talent. None. Salangid, Level 0, Combat Power 0, Innate Talent. None. Chu Xian saw some small fish swimming around him and a lot of information appeared in his mind. He wiggled his body and the surrounding fish dodged away in fear. This should be the place, Chu Xian thought to himself as he surfaced, looking at a nearby area enclosed in a net. A menacing light flashed in his eyes and he dived back into the water and rushed forward. The deepest part of the lake was around 20 meters deep, but because the whole area was regulated and controlled, there weren't many kinds of fish, they were pretty much limited to 3 to 6 catties. 1. The most prevalent species were bass, black porgy, red drum and other kinds of sea fish easy to breed and raise. The areas were separated and cordoned off by nets, and a gap of 10 meters was left between any two fish farms for easy ship access. In the area surrounding the fish farms the variety was scarce, but Chu Xian still encountered 5 bass and groupers that were around 4 or 5 catties. The small half-meter fish could only face their fate and be swallowed by the meter-long Chu Xian. TSK. The flavor is pretty nice, much tastier than the fish I buy at the market. Chu Xian thought with satisfaction as he munched down. He thrust his tail and darted forward toward the area belonging to the Qin family. Quickly, Chu Xian swam up to the biggest fish farm in Feng Tai Lake. The area was around 20,000 square meters or 5 acres, and there were tons of sea creatures including crabs, lobsters, striped bass, red drums, etc., too. The farm was surrounded by nets that stopped fish from getting through, but Chu Xian wasn't simply a fish. 3. He turned back into a human, lifted the net and crossed inside. As a fish in the Qin family farm, Chu Xian saw red drums, black dreams, and other bass through his control ability. The density of fish was more than 10 times greater than the other areas. There's a lot of fish. I wonder how many levels I can gain when I eat them all. Chu Xian thought to himself and opened his mouth. Chu Xian plunged forward into the deepest area, using his control power to gather all the fish within a 13-meter radius towards him. The fish in the farm weren't very big, at most 1 or 2 catties, and the younger fish were even smaller than that. Chu Xian ignored the fish under 1 catty and targeted a thick dotted fish around 50 centimeters long and tore a huge bite out of it. After swallowing the first one, he bit into a red drum and directly bit it in two. Blood spurted and turned the water red. After he swallowed another base, Chu Xian frowned. In the area that he controlled, he could feel a couple of fish struggling, trying to regain their freedom. Chu Xian focused his will on these fish. Red drum. Level 8. Combat power. 35 innate talent. None red drums were imported from America. They grew fast, reproduced quickly, and were priced well. Raised in an average density area, they could reach the weight of 1 kg in 10 to 12 months, and could even weigh up to 3 kg. It wasn't hard for them to grow up to 6,000 kilograms per acre, which could rake in some 60,000 RMB. The fish were usually 50 or 60 RMB for half a kg and were easy to raise. In the Qin's farm, the red drums took up almost a third of the whole population. Most of them were around 30 or 40 cm, but the ones Chu Xian was looking at right now were almost 80 cm, and they were, on average, level 8 with a combat power of 35. Chu Xian focused on these fish and sped over to one of the 40 cm red drum and bit off its head. After this kill, he felt the other red drums struggling even harder, fighting like their lives depended on it. Seems like this control isn't absolute, and the higher level fish can sense the danger and try to run, Chu Xian noted in his heart. He then focused on the fish near him. Bite after bite and gulp after gulp. Thousands of fish gathered in the small area, churning the water with their bodies as a strange dot-looking fish attacked them ferociously, spreading and splashing blood in all directions. In half an hour, the area around Chu Xian had only 1 fish remaining, and the sea water was dyed red with blood. The other fish began avoiding the area on instinct. Amazing. Chu Xian thought. In half an hour, he swallowed thousands of kg of fish, and although he hadn't leveled up, he was well on his way. I might be able to get 3 or 4 levels a night. It's all thanks to Qin Jiyu, providing such a nice place for me to grind. Translator's Thoughts. Aristofaniso, 1. The catty is typically measured at around 604 grams, but in mainland China is rounded for a market standard of 500 grams. So 3.6 is 1.5 to 3 kilograms. For now I'll leave it as Gene/catty, but I might just change it to kg in the future. LUL America. 2. So this was originally mu, but there isn't really easy round number like 500. 30 mu equals around 5 acres or 20,000 square meters. 3. I thought at first this was going to be something like, but Chu Xian was no ordinary fish. And then he destroys the net or something. I was all doki doki and excited. Chapter 44. Danger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Danger. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen_Chu Xian swam excitedly, plunging forward with a wicked gleam in his eyes. In a few minutes, Chu Xian was surrounded by fish again, and he opened his huge mouth and began leveling up again. The sounds of chewing and cracking bones sounded across the water, and fish after fish left only traces of blood before directly entering Chu Xian's stomach. One after another, little by little, the fish were devoured and ended up in Chu Xian's stomach. In those 2 or 3 hours, Chu Xian lost count of how many fish he had eaten. He leveled up twice, reaching level 15. The Qin family fish farm was the biggest one in all of Feng Tai Lake, almost twice as large as the next biggest farm. The hundreds of fish it contained would take at least 2 or 3 days of relentless eating to finish. Chu Xian stayed in the area until 3 in the morning. He grinned to himself as he swam towards the border of the farm, and using the same approach, he reached the shore, transformed back into a human, and left quickly after getting dressed. In his car, Chu Xian drove back to his home and checked his status. He couldn't help but smile. Name: Chu Xian. Status: human, can transform into a fish. Level: 15, new-born little fish, 1.3 m. Combat power: 115. Ability: Devour, can evolve from eating smaller fish. Control, can control lower-leveled fish. Big fish eat little fish. System ability: Remold, can change the shape of self or fish under your control. Every transformation will lower your level and the level of the fish you control. After leveling his fish body, Chu Xian's human body also improved a lot. Strength, speed, and toughness were all increased by almost 50%. If he got into a fight with Qin Jiyu and the others again, they would stand no chance. My fitness right now shouldn't be any worse than a soldier king from the army. Chu Xian thought happily before getting into his bed and collapsing. 1. The sky gradually brightened as the sun rose in the east. The blush of dawn shone over Feng Tai Lake and shimmered off the gentle water. A wafting breeze swept over, bringing in the salty tang of the sea. Boats hurried here and there in the morning rush to feed the fish. Even though a big fish farm had its own ecosystem, the population density was still very high, and there wasn't enough natural food for all the fish. On the Qin family farm, 6 workers drove a boat and operated a feed machine that dispensed food into the lake. One after another, the fish gathered and surfaced to eat the food. Ha! Old song, do you think there are less fish than usual today? One of the 40-something workers commented with a confused look. Really? Old song looked around. Maybe the fish are just gathered somewhere else. And, the middle-aged man replied and put the thought out of his mind. There were too many fish at the farm, and even though Chu Xian had taken out about a fifth of them, it still wasn't easy to tell the difference just by a quick glance. After sleeping past noon, Chu Xian hurriedly ate and rushed over to the shop. When he got there were already several customers glancing around. After apologizing profusely, Chu Xian opened the door and started working. Even though the traffic and volume had gone down, his fame had also risen. There was a brief burst of activity when Xiao Ying's classmates who knew about the fish from the Gold Dragon Resort came over to look around. As this crowd came, they all greeted him politely with admiring looks. In between customers, Chu Xian sometimes chatted with them as well, and their changed attitudes were refreshing. Success was, for this reason, essential for respect and admiration. The current Chu Xian and the past Chu Xian were at 2 extremes on the spectrum. People came and went and the crowd gradually thinned out until Chu Xian closed the shop door at 10 in the evening. Driving back to the lake again, Chu Xian parked and started his routine. Chu Xian walked a distance away from the Qin family farm before he stripped quickly and transformed into a fish. In a couple minutes, he was in the middle of dozens of fish, and he gobbled up one after another like a demon as blood filled the lake. Nevertheless, Feng Tai Lake was large and deep, and the blood quickly diffused. Tisk, tsk. They even have 2-meter long red drums. Chu Xian thought as he spotted 2 huge red drums. A red drum could grow to heavier than 50 kg, and both of the fish had definitely gotten to that point. Perhaps they managed to avoid the fishing net somehow. Chu Xian looked at the 2 fish with interest. They were at higher levels than him but had much lower combat power. Chu Xian rushed over and lunged to eat one of them. But to his surprise, the red drum saw him coming and dashed away faster than he could swim. Damn! It really is a high-leveled fish. Even if it has low combat power, it's still fast as H*LL. He gave up on his plan to eat them, and he just focused on controlling the fish that were of a lower level than him. Suddenly he felt a chill as if something was staring at him. A sense of danger came over him. What? Chu Xian thought, looking around and extending his god's eye view. This. Chu Xian contracted his pupils. In his field of view, he could see a serpentine creature hidden at the bottom of the lake. It was an off-white color with green stripes from head to tail. The 0.3 meter long creature waited patiently, staring coldly, poised to strike. Moray eel, Gymnothorax reticularis. Level 17 combat power. 125 ability. Strangle Chu Xian sucked in a cold breath. A level 17. Chu Xian's expression distorted. It wasn't bad that the eel was a higher level, but its combat power was 10 higher than his, and it also had a special ability. Why is this in a fish farm? Translator's thoughts. Aristophaneso, 1. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what a soldier king is. 2. He be level 15, apparently with CP of 115. Chapter 45. First fight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. First fight. Translator. Aristophaneso editor. Karen _ the moray eel was a fast and ferocious demersal fish that lived at the bottom of bodies of water, usually 50.80 meters below the water level in sandy and muddy areas. Their adult size was typically around 3 to 5 meters, but they could reach 6 meters in length. I hope it won't attack me. Chu Xian prayed to himself, waving his tail and swimming slowly upwards. At that moment, the moray eel flashed out like an arrow, lunging forward. Chu Xian recoiled and rushed forward as fast as he could. But in his view, he could see that the moray eel was much faster than him. It sped closer and closer, trailing its long and thin body behind him for at least 4 meters. Chu Xian knew he couldn't get away and that the moray eel wasn't about to give up, so he gritted his teeth and turned around, facing the eel with a cold stare, gaping his mouth threateningly. The eel slowed down, examining him cautiously. The weird fish in front of it was exuding a ferocious aura full of malice, but it felt an instinctual hate and need to hunt and kill. *T. Chu Xian thought as he stared at the moray eel. It examined him in return. He was panicking, but he couldn't show any fear, so he threatened it with his jaws, exposing more of his sharp teeth. But his move seemed to provoke the eel, or maybe it felt the implicit challenge, and it threw its body forward in an attack. I didn't do anything and you just came over. I don't believe your thin is that strong. This father will bite you in half. Chu Xian thought as he rushed forward with gaping jaws, facing off with the eel directly. But the eel shook its body and bent nimbly, avoiding Chu Xian's gaping mouth in a flash and countering with a lunge at Chu Xian's belly. Chu Xian thought as he felt a shearing pain in his belly, but with the pain came some relief as well. Since he was 1.3 meters long and weighed 70 or 80 caddies, he was big. Although the moray eel was more than 4 meters long, it weighed only around 20 or 30 caddies, and its small mouth couldn't do that much damage with just one bite. Chu Xian flipped around quickly and thrust his gaping mouth at the eel. But to his surprise, the eel suddenly twisted and wrapped itself around his body, looping its 4-meter-long body around him and gripping him tightly. Chu Xian cursed as he panicked, remembering the eel's ability. He thrashed violently, trying to shake the eel off or escape its grip. In a panic, he quickly realized that none of his efforts were working, and even from his view, all he could see was the eel covering every inch of him. He also saw that as he struggled, the muscles on the eel contracted and wriggled in response. Not good. Chu Xian thought, with fear in his eyes. With the eel wrapped around him, he had no way to fight back, and if he couldn't attack, how could he win? Ah! Chu Xian roared inside as he struggled against the powerful pressure imprisoning him, pushing inward and crushing him slowly, filling him with immense pain. The strangle ability. Chu Xian thought as the pressure bunched his organs together and pushed out a thin line of blood his mouth. No. No. My new life has just begun. How could I die so easily? Chu Xian shouted desperately in his mind. Chu Xian panicked. Following a desperate thought, he thrashed and flailed. Hit it. Smash it. Pang. He felt a crash and an ache as he felt sharp teeth bite into his head. F*******. Control. Chu Xian swore and called up his control view. When he saw the mark the eel's teeth left on his head, he was angry and happy that he strengthened his biting force and that his head was the toughest part of his body. Under his control, hundreds of fish rushed forward and attacked the moray eel. With the surrounding attacks, Chu Xian felt the eel's grip relaxing and felt relieved. Enduring great pain, he continued controlling the fish to push the eel towards the edge of the farm. He saw the metal apparatus holding the net in place. With a cruel thought, he rushed the whole mass of fish into it. Crash! Chu Xian's strength combined with the push of all the controlled fish and he smashed them forward. Chu Xian felt like he could hear the moray eel's scream of pain. He felt its stranglehold relax even further. The mass of fish bounced back, and he smashed them forward again. After 5 more times, the eel loosened up slowly, afraid of the pain. Seeing this in his mind, Chu Xian immediately seized the opportunity and thrust his body around, gaping his mouth and snapping his teeth down on the eel's body. His sharp teeth and the powerful snap of his jaws pierced the eel, and Chu Xian refused to let go, crunching down and thrashing his head to rip the eel in two. The moray eel struggled violently and its whole body flailed around in the water, but Chu Xian responded with a cold glint in his eyes, snapping down on another part of its body. The eel's body had almost been bitten through. There were 3 distinct segments separated by bites, but the eel kept struggling violently to survive. Mercilessly, Chu Xian opened his mouth and bit again. After 5 minutes, life finally slipped from the eel's body and it stiffened in death. Chu Xian ground his teeth, examining the dead eel before opening his mouth and swallowing it all down. Ding! Congratulations! Host has leveled up to 16, 1.4 meters long. Strength, speed, toughness, and biting force have all been strengthened. Additionally, you can choose one attribute to power up. Ding! Leveling up has healed all wounds. Obtained strangle ability from devouring the moray eel, Gymnothorax reticularis. 2 system prompts appeared in his mind. Name. Chu Xian status. Fish, can transform into a human. Level. 16, new born little fish, 1.4 m. Combat power. 135 ability. Devour, can evolve from eating smaller fish. Control, can control lower-leveled fish. Strangle, can use body to wrap around enemy. Big fish eat little fish system ability. Remold, can change the shape of self or fish under your control. Every transformation will lower your level or the level of the fish you control. Translator's thoughts. Aristofaniso, 1. So Internet Senpai says that moray eels actually don't swim fast enough to run after FUD and typically lie in ambush and snap up the prey in one quick lash, but who cares? Chapter 46. Remolding himself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Remolding himself. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen _ While sitting in his car, Chu Xian reflected on everything that just happened, filling his body with residual fear. Just a little bit more. If the moray eel had been just a little stronger, he might already be dead. These creatures are terrifying. If I encountered something poisonous, I would probably have no hope, Chu Xian thought to himself. Throughout the battle, Chu Xian discovered he was still weak. In just a simple lake connected to the sea, he almost failed at an easy task, but Chu Xian consoled himself with his bad luck. A random moray eel showed up in a fish farm and attacked him. This ability is S******. Chu Xian thought to himself with a bitter smile. Strangle, it allowed him to focus all his strength in a grip and also increased his flexibility, but even then, wrapping his body around other fish would be impossible. But my body has still become incredibly flexible. Chu Xian thought. After he changed back into a human, he immediately felt the change in his body, and he could now easily do the splits or bend backwards into a bridge. He was more flexible than those gymnasts and yoga teachers. Back home, Chu Xian lay down on his bed and reflected back on the battle. From the start he was completely passive and was pretty much just a target to be abused. If he didn't have the control ability, he might have died then and there. I might look strong and ferocious, but in real battles, I can't actually fight. All I have are some sharp teeth, but every other part of me is weak. I can't deal with flexible creatures, and if I encounter them, all I can do is run. I don't even know whether I can run away successfully. Chu Xian flipped in his bed, unable to sleep as he thought about all kinds of random things. The battle really depressed him. Remold. I will remold my body tomorrow. Chu Xian decided. This was his soul system ability, and from beginning to end, he always used it on ornamental fish. Although it decreased his level, Chu Xian needed to strengthen his combat ability. The next morning, Chu Xian ate a little and thought about how he would remold himself. Thinking about his current figure with a huge mouth, sharp teeth and a tight armor of dark scales, he couldn't help but think of its faults. All I can do is bite, everything else is useless. Should I change into something like a yellow catfish? With sharp bony spurs? Or should I make myself into something with a tortoise shell to hide when in danger? Or transform myself into a hedgehog? Or lengthen myself into some kind of snake? Chu Xian pondered his choices carefully. His level would be lowered after each remold, so he had to plan thoroughly. Transform. Chu Xian thought, examining himself. The part underneath his head shrank until it was the width of an arm and his tail grew bigger and heavier with scales shining as if it were metal. The transformation could not create something out of nothing and also couldn't waste. Looking over the leftover flesh and bone, Chu Xian inserted them into his head and his head expanded and grew, growing to the size of a wash basin. Chu Xian examined his head and slowly extended out two lobster-like claws and encased his head with a bony shell. Chu Xian experimented and folded in his whole body underneath the bony shell. With a mere thought, the body could snap out and swing around, either wrapping around a victim in a strangling motion or whipping around like a steel pole. Confirm remold. Chu Xian thought. Immediately, his body froze and transformed into a monster. If his shape had been ferocious before, now it was just terrifying and creepy. The head was as big as a basketball with sharp teeth peeking out of its huge mouth. Two claws extended next to the eyes, completing the monster head. A long and slim body about 70 cm long was about as thick as a human arm. It was pale as if covered in hard bone. Any gentle wave had huge range and flexibility, and the body was capped off with a fan-out tail covered in scales, thumping the water gently. Name. Chu Xian status. Fish, can transform into a human. Level. 15, new-born little fish, 1.3 m. Combat power. 125 ability. Devour, can evolve from eating smaller fish. Control, can control lower-leveled fish. Strangle, can use body to wrap around enemy. Big fish eat little fish system ability. Remold, can change the shape of self or fish under your control. Every transformation will lower your level and the level of the fish you control. After remolding, Chu Xian dropped a level and was now 10 centimeters shorter, but if he sucked in his body, he looked only 40 or 50 centimeters long. If I met the moray eel again, I could kill it easily. I didn't change my mouth because of the convenience of eating and attacking, and anyway, the claws can attack enemies from the side. The slim body can use the strangle ability easily, and if I meet any shark-like creature, I can hide inside the bony shell. The scaly tail can push me forward and can also attack. No matter what I encounter, I can fight back. The only weakness is the hardness of the body, so I'll need to strengthen that in the future. Chapter 47. Powering up the control ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. Powering up the control ability. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen _3:00 p.m. After finishing his transformation and remolding, Chu Xian hopped in his car and drove over to the store and opened the doors. Finally, when at evening, an acquaintance walked into the shop. Hee, it really is you, little bro. Old Wang 5 said as he walked in with a knowing look, chuckling to himself. Chu Xian was surprised but greeted him warmly. Brother Wang. What a nice surprise. Please, come in. Sit. Don't worry about me, Old Wang 5 said with a wave of his hand. I just came to take a look. I heard from a friend that someone opened up shop selling some of the best quality goldfish available here on Guwu Street, so I just dropped by to see. It turns out it's my little bro. That's right. Chu Xian chuckled and nodded. Old Wang 5 wandered around the store, looking over the hundreds of expensive goldfish and was surprised. I really don't know how you managed to get so many of these amazing goldfish. TSK, they are all bigger than the ones you sold me the other time. Chu Xian followed behind him, smiling. 2,000 RMB each. Really, little bro, you are selling them a little cheaply. These things don't have any fixed price, but 2,000 is still a little low. Over 3,000 still wouldn't be considered expensive, and you should have no problem selling them at even 4,000 renminbi. At Shanghai, they would be at least 4,000, Old Wang 5 continued. Chu Xian nodded. In the beginning, when he sold the first 10 remolded goldfish to Old Wang 5 for 2,000 RMB each, the goldfish were much smaller. Old Wang 5 bought them for 2,000 only because he was confident he could sell them at a higher price. However, the goldfish were now much bigger, and they were now much more expensive. This cheap price, in Brother Wang's words, could even be said to be breaking market rules. Brother Wang. Are you saying I should raise my prices? Chu Xian asked plainly. Yes. Old Wang 5 affirmed. Little bro, I'm not going to lie to you. I came here with an ulterior motive. I need to remind you that you shouldn't sell ornamental fish too cheaply. Expensive types are expensive not only because they're rare, but also because they sell at a high price. I don't know how many goldfish of this kind you can get, but I'm sure you can't get too many. You shouldn't lower the price in order to sell more volume. The people who can afford to buy them won't care about spending a couple thousand RMB on them. Noel.N. Chu Xian nodded, considering his words. Selling a lot of goldfish at this price would definitely affect the market and create at least a small impact butterfly effect. The price of all small ornamental fish would probably drop, and sellers like Old Wang 5 definitely wouldn't want to see this happen. I understand. Chu Xian nodded after a moment of thought. It's good that little brother understands, Brother Wang said with a nod. He stayed to chat a little more before leaving. Brother Wang is right. The value of my goldfish can be set much higher, and the people who can afford them won't care about a couple thousand RMB. My goldfish are a luxury, and after the goldfish become popular, I'll need to focus on remolding larger ornamental fish. At that time, even if I have willing customers, I won't have goldfish to sell. Chu Xian watched Brother Wang leave and thought to himself, I'll raise the price in 2 days. Chu Xian took out his phone and made a video to post on Fast Hands, announcing that he would raise his goldfish prices. That afternoon, Chu Xian sold 10 more goldfish before he closed up shop and drove over to the fish farms at Fong Tai. Yesterday, because of the moray eel, he didn't eat many fish. This time, he was going to kill a lot and eat a lot to make up for the level he dropped because of his remolding. Today, the sky was gloomy and black without any moonlight. Chu Xian walked up to the lake and tossed his clothes to the side. A scary and weird fish appeared in the water with a terrifying head, slim serpentine body, and a heavy fan tail. On the whole, the fish looked like a demon from hell. Chu Xian's slim body folded in on itself in its bony shell, connecting the head and tail. He waved his tail forcefully, propelling himself forward. Although I dropped a level, my speed didn't decrease, Chu Xian thought to himself. His speed might be even a little faster with the propelling motion of his strong tail. Near the border of the net, Chu Xian didn't transform back into a human, but instead, swung his body out and over the net. He landed tail first at the Qin family farm. Tucking his tail into his body, Chu Xian opened his mouth and began feasting. Without the disturbance of any other fierce creatures, Chu Xian fed himself without any interruptions. The fish in the farm were gobbled up and devoured at an incredible speed, and in less than an hour, Chu Xian regained his lost level. Choosing to power up his toughness, Chu Xian paused for half a second before continuing to eat. Ding! Host has consumed 50 tons of fish. Acquired a 1-time power-up of control. The sudden system announcement surprised Chu Xian and he paused for a moment. Glancing around at the fish that still surrounded him, he plunged headfirst and ignored the announcement. From splashing around until 3:30 a.m., Chu Xian brought down the fish population by at least 2/3. Finally, he swam out of the cordoned farm area, got back into his car and drove off. Lying on his bed at home, Chu Xian checked his status and was pleasantly surprised. Name: Chu Xian. Status: Fish, can transform into a human. Level: 17, new born little fish, 1.5 m. Combat power: 223. Ability: Devour, can evolve from eating smaller fish. Control, can control lower-leveled fish. Strangle, can use body to wrap around enemy. Big fish eat little fish. System ability: Remold, can change the shape of self or fish under your control. Every transformation will lower your level or the level of the fish you control. Power-up control, 1 time. Can select one fish under control effect to use a 1-time absolute control boost. Control distance unlimited. Current limit to control boost: 1, increases by 1 with every 50 tons of fish. Absolute control. No distance limit. This is like having another self. Chu Xian thought excitedly. Even though the fish I control can't eat and grow without limit, the fish can still grow normally, Chu Xian thought with disappointment. Nevertheless, the ability was very useful. What if a fish under absolute control is remolded into a human being? The idea popped into Chu Xian's mind and he shook his head. Too crazy. Chapter 48. No fish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. No fish. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen _ In the early morning, black clouds obscured the sky and the muggy air shrouded the workers of the Qin family fish farm as they lifted their heads, looking out at the sky and lake as they drove the feeding boat. Looks like it's going to rain. Let's get this done quickly then head back. The boss says he wants to eat fish. Let's catch a big red drum and leave. The workers operated the feed machine, casting fish food all around. To their surprise, they had operated the machine for some minutes now, yet only a few fish came over to eat, and they were mostly all smaller fish less than 1 catty in size. What's happening? It's raining soon and the weather isn't or stuffy. Fish shouldn't be hiding at the bottom of the lake. Why no fish coming out to eat? Asked one of the middle-aged men with a frown. Old song, let's go a bit further in. Okay. They drove the boat towards the center of the farm where the fish were usually concentrated, but as they cast out the food, the fish coming to the surface weren't even half as much as usual. Old song, do you know what's happening? How come there are no fish? The middle-aged man frowned. Old song stood by the front of the boat frowning too, looking in confusion at the tiny fish eating. Maybe all the fish are in some corner. Old song guessed, looking around. Everything seemed normal. Then let's go check it out, the middle-aged man said hesitantly. I remember a couple days ago, there were less fish than normal too. Old song and the others thought back. Old Zhang had really mentioned a couple days ago that the fish seemed less than usual, but they hadn't paid any attention then. Let's go look elsewhere, Old Song said, turning the boat in another direction. No matter where they went, after stopping at 5 or 6 different locations, only a couple fish came to the surface. As they headed to the last corner of the farm, Old Song and the others started panicking. Go and tell the boss quickly. Find out what happened. Why are all the fish gone? Old Song said as they rushed the boat back to the bank and ran to the Qin house. The Qin house was a townhouse beside the fish farms at Feng Tai. It was renowned for being luxurious in Hai Qing City, and it was worth at least tens of millions of RMB. Old Song and others walked hurriedly into the house and yelled out in a panic. Boss! Boss! What's going on? Said a fat 40-year-old wearing a tiny muscle tank. Qin Dahai looked out at the panicked workers with a frown. Boss! A lot of the fish disappeared. Old Song exclaimed, pointing in the direction of the farm. Disappeared. Impossible. Qin Dahai said as he strode forward. How could the fish disappear? Did someone steal them? We don't know. We don't know. We just went out to feed the fish, but the fish that came up were much fewer than before. We checked the whole farm. Not even half as much as the usual amount. Old Song and the others explained hurriedly. Show me. Qin Dahai said with smoldering anger. Judging by the stuffy air, it was about to rain, and usually at times like this, a lot of fish would come close to the surface even without the incentive of food. With so many fish in the farm, it was impossible that all of them refused to come to surface. The only possibility was that there weren't as many fish. Old Song shrunk back from the angry Qin Dahai. These workers knew very well who Dahai was. A couple years ago, some thief came over to steal fish in the middle of the night, and after Dahai found him, he took a dozen people to go beat the guy half to death with iron sticks. If someone hadn't stopped him, he would have thrown the thief into the sea. Hong Long. A flash of lightning split the sky, and thunder filled the air for half a second. Rain began to pour down heavily. However, Dahai walked to the fish farm as if he didn't feel the rain. Go. Drive, he ordered. His face only became cloudier as he looked out at the small fish feeding. His years of experience confirmed what the workers saw. There was no mistaking the situation, especially when compared to any of the fish farms nearby. In all the other farms, fish dotted the surface, covering the water. It was only in his farm that the situation was different. The boat split the water, moving towards the center of the farm. Dahai stood at the front of the boat ignoring the falling rain, looking out in silence. Get me diving gear. Dahai said suddenly. Yes, the workers replied immediately, with some surprise at Dahai intending to enter the water himself. With the gear on, Dahai jumped into the farm and checked the net. After an hour, Dahai came back up and said furiously, they were stolen. What? The workers exclaimed in astonishment. In this day and age, people still stole fish. And it wasn't easy to take fish from such a big fish farm, especially stealing some tens of tons of fish without leaving a clue. Qin Dehai's face twitched. If they lost 2/3 of the population, that was a couple million gone already. With the farm lease and the base costs, the expense would be even higher. Call the police. Get them to look for clues. I can't believe that more than 10 tons of fish could be stolen without anyone noticing. Dehai left the boat and returned home, fuming. Qin Jiyu just woke up, and he walked up in confusion when he saw his father coming in covered in water. Dad, are you alright? BL.net. Dehai remained silent, wiping himself with a towel. He lit a cigarette and puffed on it angrily. Dad! What happened? Qin Jiyu asked carefully. His father had not been this angry in a long time. Someone stole our fish. Stole? How's that possible? How did they steal them? Jiyu said in astonishment. Fish were living creatures. Even if someone caught the fish, it would take them 3 or 4 days just to transport them, yet someone actually managed to steal them. Chapter 49. Reporters, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Reporters, translator. Aristofaniso, editor. Karen_news that the Qin family's fish had been stolen quickly spread in the area, and many people secretly rejoiced. The police came over in uniform, checking the surrounding area for clues and poring over the surveillance footage for any suspicious activity. They found nothing. In the end, Qin Dehai's face was contorted in fury, but there was nothing he could do. Beside him, Qin Jiyu also turned white. From time to time, he recalled the threats of a certain young man, but he couldn't get himself to mention a word, nor did he even really believe his own thoughts. Chu Xian didn't know any of this, and of course if he had known, he would have just laughed and posed, "That's what you get for messing with me." At the entrance of his store, Chu Xian looked out at the heavy rain with changing emotions. WTF, you want to raise the price? It seems like the seller is already crazy. Raise. Raise. Boss, raise them as much as you want. I can't afford to buy them anyway. Nice try, boss, telling us you'll raise the prices to try to get people to buy your fish now. You should something else. Whether you raise them or not, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just looking. Chu Xian glanced over the comments with a smile. He opened up his WeChat and saw 2 more orders, so he packed up the goldfish and called the express delivery service to come pick them up. Life was great, and sales were looking good. On better days, he could sell almost a dozen fish online, and Chu Xian was still looking for ways to develop his online presence. Come, come. Xiao Yu. Stand here. Yes, yes. Okay, raise the umbrella a little higher. Chatter wafted into the store, disturbing Chu Xian's thoughts. A beautiful woman wearing a traditional cheongsam outside the entrance of his store held up a colorful umbrella. 3 young men stood a little distance away, and one of them was taking pictures with a camera. Chu Xian walked over curiously, glancing at the traveling agency and press ID cards hanging around the young men's necks. They were probably here to promote Gu Wu Street. Good, good. Okay. It's raining a lot now, so let's take shelter here, the man with the camera said, carefully wiping some rain off his equipment. They all nodded, walking over to Chu Xian's store. Boss, do you mind if we come in for a bit? One of the men asked. Not at all, not at all. Please, come in. Chu Xian replied. Brother Feng, my clothes are all soaked and uncomfortable, and it's raining so heavily. You still want me to pose for pictures? The lady in the cheongsam complained as she shook the water from her umbrella. Xiao Yu, just bear with it a little longer. We're almost done, the man with the camera said with a smile. The leader's orders. Gu Wu Street needs to be ready for online promotion, and we'll have to take a few more artistic pictures. Heh. Humph. I don't care, you just need to make it up to me afterwards, the cheongsam lady huffed, grabbing the young man's arm coquettishly. Okay, okay. The young man nodded quickly. No problem, after we're done with the pictures, I'll get you whatever you want, hee. You promised. The Cheongsam lady giggled. When have I ever lied to you? The young man hugged her with a smile. Looking over at Chu Xian, he said, Boss, do you have a chair so my girlfriend can sit? Take mine. Chu Xian stood up, handing over his stool. Thanks, boss. The young man nodded, offering the chair to the lady. I'm not sitting. This looks like a goldfish store, let me look around. The lady refused the chair and wandered around the store. Wow! The goldfish are so pretty, she exclaimed. Brother Feng. Brother Feng. Come here. The goldfish are so beautiful. The girl waved excitedly, so the young man walked over with a smile. What is it? What kind of goldfish are making you so excited? The young man asked curiously. Look. Look. Aren't they so cute? Wow. This one is so beautiful. Tisk, tsk. They really are beautiful. The young man couldn't help but agree. Brother Feng, I want some of these. Buy them for me, the lady begged, clinging to the man's arm. Okay, okay. I'll buy them. If you like them, we'll get them. The young man nodded without hesitation, turning to Chu Xian. Boss, how much are the goldfish? Give us a small tank. 2,000 each. If you buy 5, I'll throw in a free tank. Chu Xian replied with a smile. How much? The young man asked in astonishment. 2,000 each. Chu Xian repeated, pointing at the tank. It's written right there. The Cheongsam lady was stunned, and lifting her arms, she looked at the price tag she had covered. Oh. 2,000 for one. Why don't you just go rob a bank? The young man said with a twisted expression. He only made 6 to 7,000 RMB a month. A small tank would cost him 2 months' salary. Hee, it's always been this price. Chu Xian laughed, taking back his chair and sitting down. The young man's expression kept changing, and the Cheongsam lady pulled his arm. I want these fish. You said you'll buy whatever I want. Babe, let me talk, the young man said, patting her arm. How can these goldfish be worth 2,000 each? They're at most 30 or 40 RMB. This boss is obviously tricking us. That's not true. My goldfish are all rare and luxurious. 2,000 for one isn't expensive, and in a couple days, I'm raising the prices, Chu Xian replied unhappily. Rare and luxurious. How rare can they be if you have hundreds of them here? The goldfish are pretty, but 2,000 for one is still way too much. You're obviously lying, the young man yelled emotionally. Chu Xian frowned. This is the price. If you can't afford them, just don't buy them. I'm not forcing you. What do you mean can't afford? Boss, I don't like your attitude. You should sell them at an appropriate price instead of tricking your customers. You can't abandon your conscience just to make money. Chapter 50. Take it or leave it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Take it or leave it. Translator. Aristofaniso editor. Karen_he. Chu Xian laughed mockingly, looking over coldly. This is the price. If you want to buy them then buy, if not, I won't force you. The young man's expression contorted. The meaning of this sentence was obvious. If you can't afford them, don't buy. After looking at his unhappy girlfriend's expression, the young man said immediately, Xiao Yu, the goldfish definitely aren't worth this much. We can buy a bag with this money. The store is obviously trying to take advantage of pretty girls like you. The girl in the Cheongsam frowned and curled the corner of her mouth, saying. But these goldfish are really cute and really pretty. Can't you just get some for me? You said you'd buy me whatever I wanted. Are you going back on your promise? Humph. What do you mean go back? I don't care even if I spend thousands or tens of thousands on you, but if we buy something that's just ripping us off, we're just losing money. The young man tried to reason with her. Hey, brother. Chu Xian couldn't help but interject. I sell a lot of goldfish every day, and if my customers buy these fish, it's because they don't think they're losing money. I'll say it again. If you want to buy them then buy, but if not, don't judge my store. If you think my fish are too expensive, you can go to another store and spend a couple RMB there. You, the young man stuttered in anger, and after a glance at his girlfriend's uncomfortable expression, he glared at Chu Xian and said, do you realize you're giving a bad reputation to our Guwu Street and Haiqing City? You're in a tourist area that the city is putting in a huge effort to promote. What will the tourists say when they come and see the price of your goldfish? Do you understand what you're doing to the city's reputation? Your goldfish, are they made of gold? In the future, visitors will say we only open tourist traps here. What will they say to their friends? What kinds of comments will they leave online? In Haiqing City, the goldfish are 2,000 RMB each, are they crazy? Chu Xian watched him blabber on with some astonishment and wonder, but in the end, he replied calmly, if you want to buy, then buy. If not, just get out. You, the young man said, jabbing at him angrily with his finger. His companions frowned and came forward. Boss, what our colleague said is right. Guwu Street is being heavily promoted, and in the future, there will be a lot more visitors. If you sell things at an unreasonable price, you will damage the reputation of our city. You've probably heard of that lobster incident in Qingdao. If the customers make a big fuss, you will be fined a lot. Okay, customers. If you aren't going to buy any goldfish then I'll have to ask you to let me focus on my business. Chu Xian gestured at them to leave, shaking his head in his heart. You, the group repeated, stunned, looking at Chu Xian awkwardly. Fine. Xiao Yu, Dong Dong, a fan, let's go, the young man with the camera spat out awkwardly, and the Cheongsam girl followed them unhappily as they left. F*******. I'm going to expose your black market trap, the young man said, taking some pictures of the store. Xiao Feng, we just have to report the store to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau. He's obviously ripping off his customers, and the Bureau will definitely do something when they hear about it. There's no rush, the young man said vehemently. We need to give this arrogant guy a hard time. We'll expose his store and let the whole city know about his tourist rap. Then he'll have to close down and some of his former customers will come and make a fuss. Okay, let's show this arrogant ass his mistake. I was just thinking about what we could put in today's paper. Once the report is out, the readers will definitely pay close attention. Just let me handle the video. I'll expose this whole thing on Weibo and tell everyone to boycott this evil salesman. Okay, the young man agreed with a malicious glint in his eyes. In his shop, Chu Xian had no idea what they were planning and just shook his head at their ignorance. They were just like how Chu Xian was before when he didn't understand how 2 koi fish could be worth 4 million. In the end, diamond rings and luxury clothes also cost tens of thousands of RMB. All luxury was symbolic, a way to feed people's vanity, and a way to show status. Some things couldn't be measured by their cost. Because of the heavy rain, Chu Xian didn't sell any fish, but he wasn't worried and closed up early. The next day, the weather was still gloomy and the light rain showed no signs of stopping. That morning, Chu Xian drove over to his fish farm and found the workers already inside. The broken things were all replaced, and construction would be done in a few days. Little bro, you're here. I was just going to call you. Mr. Li came up to him as Chu Xian walked through the door. All the equipment arrived this morning. Do you think it's safe to leave it all here? Chu Xian understood what he was asking and replied after a moment of thought. Just put it here, and I'll figure something out. Mr. Li nodded and offered. There's a little room over there, and construction is almost finished. You can get a bed and I'll have some of the workers take care of it. Thanks, Mr. Li. Chu Xian nodded gratefully, walking over to the new room. The floorboards had been placed but the walls weren't painted. The furniture was lacking, but it was habitable. After staying a little while longer, Chu Xian left, driving his car to the Feng Tai Road crossing. He noticed a dozen or so people watching a fish farm netting its fish, and he stopped and wandered out curiously. Out of the way, out of the way. Everyone, give us some space. Chu Xian heard as he watched a small group of big guys yelling at the bystanders. Hua! Some 500 or 600 caddies of fish were poured into a container on the bank. Not bad, old Qian. These yellow croakers and black breams are really expensive, you got a good haul, the fisherman on the side said with some jealousy. Haha. I'm just lucky to have raised a few more of these croakers and breams, an older man wearing some leather clothes replied while laughing.